The tape. We do a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
The tape.
UGA game day, boy, we ball out. Pull up, put the whole conference in the doghouse. Leave them 6 feet, see me on the win streak. All-star status, go coach and the bench deep. Offense on 10, how we run it? Your best ain't nothing, we gon' send them boys punting. Black and red, got them dead on arrival. Defense hunkered down for the tie. Hey, you don't want it with the dogs. Film guy on it, you don't want it with my dog. Break it down, play by play, that's the day-to-day. They know we ain't come to play, boy, it's UGA. Kirby Smart, I cannot play the fool. Back to back, we did not come to lose. Back to back like we got something to prove. Pay your dues, Dawg Nation on the move. What's up?
We do a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape. The tape.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Shut up. Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play, we ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. The
Shut up
tape.
and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up. The tape.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Tuesday evening. I always look forward to doing this show because I feel like I get to just turn my mind off, turn my brain off. I spend a ton of time working on these show sheets we all do, and then we get out here and it feels like second nature for me when the lights come on. So it's a good opportunity for me to just shut my brain off for 2 hours and not think about what was a very long day for me. Hope it found you in a great one. We got a loaded show for you guys tonight. NFL players coaching college football teams, big name NFL names coming back to the world of college football, kind of skipping the line in doing so. We're going to talk about that tonight. Might get to some exit interviews. I've been teasing exit interviews for like 5 shows now. The goal is to not get there. The goal is to talk about all the other stuff and then hopefully rely on that at the end if we need it. We got some spiraling programs, as you can see by the title of today's show. We'll talk about the teams that are just on a downspin right now and can't seem to get a hold of it. Cam Ward finally talks about the bowl game opt-out at halftime. We also have a to-do list featuring the Miami Hurricanes as well. And there was a coach today that was labeled a quarterback whisperer that just blew my mind. So we're going to talk about that today as well. But I want to start with this. And it's a general question for everybody listening today, whether it be live or whether it be on rewatch. Are we happy with the way college football is currently progressing? I think I know the answer to that. I think I know the overall response from the recent news about more, future college football playoff expansion coming down, and the news we talked about yesterday with the SEC and Big Ten kind of wielding their power, I should say, in the world of college football. I kind of think I know where everybody else stands, but I want your opinions in the chat, and I want the opinions from the guys here on the show of whether or not we're genuinely happy with the way it's moving and the way it's progressing, because I personally and for the most part, relatively happy with the way the sport is progressing. And I know that seems like a contrarian opinion, but I think we are evening the playing field day by day. I really do. I do want to acknowledge that it's way different than what we used to have in the world of college football. The sport is totally different than where it was even 5 years ago, especially different than where it was 15, 20 years ago in this sport. 10 years ago, we had a handful of perennial contenders that battled it out at the top of this sport. I don't think we will ever have the run in college football like we saw from Nick Saban in the mid 2010s on until the early 2020s. I don't think there's going to be this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, teams that perennially dominate the sport. I think because of the way the structure of talent acquisition is going, and because of the conference expansion, and because of the money that's getting influxed into the world of college football, I think that list of 5 to 6 teams is now expanded into 10, 12, 11, 13, 14, 15 teams that actually have the ability to go out and put together a roster, capable of going out and winning a national title. I do believe that parity has entered this sport at a much higher rate than ever before, especially looking at next year. If you look at next year in the world of college football, there are a bunch of teams with a bunch of holes and a bunch of questions. There's not one football team going into next year that you feel 100% confident about in any of these conferences. If you do, it's because of their schedule, not because of what they have on the roster or what they're returning, right? I do want to acknowledge that anytime anything changes in anything that we love, there's going to be this natural clutching of pearls. There's going to be this natural gasp of, oh my God, I can't believe we're changing this so much. And I'm also aware that when decisions are made around something that you love, predicated solely off of money, or at least something that you could point to and say, that decision has been made because dollar amounts are impacted in the positive variety for the decision makers that have made the decision, you ultimately get a little bit more upset about that as well, especially if that decision based off money will potentially or possibly alienate a portion of the fan base or a portion of the sport, like we've seen recently with the Big 12 and the ACC. I, for one, am kind of glad, however, that I know this is another contrary opinion, I'm relatively glad that we have the ability to give out auto bids in these conferences that we all deem to be superior to the others, right? We talked about this a little bit last night. All of the data over the last 10 years of the college football playoff rankings tell us that these 4 spots to the SEC and the 4 spots to the Big Ten are not just money-based or influence-based, they're merit-based. The history of the last decade of college football, and even further beyond that, even to the BCS era, for the most part, would explain that and would justify that. I also do appreciate in this new model that we are kind of removing the responsibility that we've placed at the feet of the College Football Playoff Committee for a long time. For a decade now, we have spent all of October through December talking about Ward Manuel being an idiot. I mean, that's all we do is complain in the rankings time of the year about how wrong they are. And now we have kind of alleviated that pressure from those guys by, setting these automatic bids for these conference teams. I also appreciate that I do think we're going to get the 4 best teams from the 2 best conferences in this sport every year moving forward under this new model, and I appreciate that. I guess my overall question, and Kirby, I got a feeling you're going to be the one answering this for me tonight, is why are people upset about this move? What is the reasoning behind the clutching of the pearls? Oh my God, my sport is ruining.
You want me to answer?
I do. I want you right now to tell me why we are so upset about the new world order of college football, where we're moving towards. Why are people so upset?
Because everything that's being done is being done to manufacture a product that has historically not been good. The college football playoffs have not been close historically, and the entire validity that's been placed around those is that the games have to be good. And that's kind of been the catalyst for whether the teams got it right and whether Ward Manuel's an idiot or not. That's not going to change whether you have auto bids or the quote-unquote 4 best based on metrics. The average margin of victory in the SEC was 13.5 points in 2024. The average margin of victory in the CFP the last 10 years has been 18.7 points, and the average margin of victory the last 15 national championships is 15.7. Like, this idea that you're going to get these 4 correct teams and everything's going to be fine when you get this in the realm is ridiculous. And I think that a lot of people want it to be the case because you're getting, quote, the right teams in. I'm fine with saying that the system needs to be changed. I think expanding it causes a lot of issues. I think the reason that college football has been so great and is what is so iconic about it isn't because you have really good playoff games or the moments are really good or the national champion was the best team. It's when you can have a kick six and completely destroy your rival's chance of winning a three-peat, or the 6-5 victory that you have can upend their season. Stuff like that has been what's made college football great.
And I do recognize this point. The idea that the regular season has now become diminished. And now we used to have a model that rewarded perfection, or at least made you aspire to become perfect throughout the year. And then ultimately you get selected to be one of the 2 or one of the 4 teams that go on, and it almost required perfection. But I'm here to tell you now, with the way that we have seen talent acquisition spread out since 2021, since NIL has come around, that this spread of talent has removed the statistical probability that there is a perfect team, or that there are 2 perfect teams. I think we have expanded that pool of 12 to 14 teams that actually are quality enough to maybe win a national title. And the depth, like I said, of these like Bama rosters and that LSU roster from 2019, those will not likely exist moving forward based off what we're seeing right now, even in the recruiting rankings.
Correct. And I'm not against the idea that maybe we need to expand it to 6 or to 8. I think the idea that you can have a team lose a quarter of its regular season games and still be told, hey, you can still have a chance at winning a national title and going on a 4 or 5 game stretch. I think what has made college football so great, and it's a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, it's not the destination, it's the journey. We've made the entire sport based on what the destination is. Can you make it to the playoff? Can you make it to the national title? When the reality is the journey all the way through has been what's made college football so good throughout that point. I think if you can be a 9-3, if you can lose a quarter of your regular season games and still be crowned the national champion at the end of the year, I don't really want a part of that league. And frankly, I don't really care about the national championship as much as I do the regular season. What's made college football so great is you can watch a noon game where, oh my God, the top 10 team got upset, and then there's an instant classic, and then after that, it's not boy, I can't wait till December gets here so we can have 6 or 7 games.
And what I'm trying to get across to not just you but to everybody is, and I do understand. And I'm with you. I was one of these people who had nostalgia about the pursuit of perfection, how every week matters, right? You talk about the kick six costing somebody a national title. I am with you. I am just telling you that because we have spread the talent across this sport, top to bottom, that the probability of having one of those perfect teams has drastically decreased. Yeah. Therefore, we probably need to increase the pool. You see what I'm saying?
And I agree, but I still think do you think a team that can lose a quarter of its regular season
I think
games?
You're getting wrapped up in that. I think nowadays the probability of a team losing 3 regular season games and still being one of the best 12 teams in college football is very likely. I also think nowadays that 9-3 football team and that 10-2 football team knotting it up and the 9-3 team winning is a likelihood.
But I also don't think that the best should be just what's on paper. I mean, there are teams that are more talented all throughout the year that lose games they shouldn't. I think that's part of what makes it so important is, yes, you have to be one of these more talented teams, and yes, you have to go through the 12-week gauntlet and have a really good record, and then you have to win the right games.
Chat saying, Hunter Lacey says, Brooks, for someone who doesn't like the NFL, you sure want college football to be like it. No, I don't. I don't want it to be. I'm just realistic about what's happening right now with the talent acquisition. The talent acquisition of where and how these players are going where they are is far more leaning towards NFL, like free agency and NFL salary caps and this ability to actually get talent everywhere across the league. It's far more like that, which I do believe means the structure, the playing structure and the scheduling structure probably need to be somewhat similar to it.
And that's why I think that it's important that we created a divide in here of what's making college football fans feel like college football is like the NFL is not this new playoff format or any of this. It's NIL and the plateau of where talent is dispersed across the league, because that's why the NFL is what it is, because every single team, regardless of what the record is, it's the best players in the country. Well, now there's more players that are the best players in the country on other teams. That's what makes this more like the NFL. So now the playoff has felt like it has to adapt. Me personally, though, I feel like what has been frustrating about this, and really for a lot of sports, but is I feel like that there is kind of a blind eye turned to turn towards fans a little bit in a lot of sports of this isn't what the majority wants. This isn't anything that they asked for. And I'll give college football credit, though. Like, they did deliver a playoff format, a 14 playoff format. When that was something that fans were pitching, and that was something that they wanted them. We need more teams in this field. But I think that since 2019, there's been so much change, and it's happened at such a rapid pace. And we're not able to kind of feel like, is this going to work? Like, we're 1 year into the 12-team playoff when we're talking about expanding and completely changing the format. I think it's way too rapid, and it does feel like a money grab because it does feel like it's just a pitch to try and get more TV time for ESPN or whoever it is. Like, I feel the change is too rapid to even keep up and adjust.
Yeah.
And I think the other big flaw that we face on this with is we're talking about just the 12 teams that could win a national title. And that's all that's centered around. And that's not the validity of what this sport is. There's 32 FBS teams in the league that matter. And like when we talk about, the playoff expansion, it's a wider table, but it's also a much more exclusive group because now you're only talking about these 12 teams. We talked about it yesterday. Like teams like Oklahoma State and the Clemsons and even like the Florida States and Miami of the world are getting screwed because of this, because it's now everything is so talked about of college football play of what can you do to get there, whereas back then it mattered not just having to be perfect. I don't really care about being perfect. I don't think you need perfect national champions, and that's not what I'm saying needs to happen. I think that winning regular season games needs to matter, and losing games that you shouldn't, like when you lose to NIU or when you lose to Michigan, should have some altering consequences on your season.
We were going down a path under the previous college football playoff format where I did not think we were incentivizing football teams to go out and schedule tough schedules. We were incentivizing the need to win as many possible games as you possibly could to get into the college football playoff. Now we are incentivizing, hey, go finish top 4 in one of these 2 top conferences, and then whatever you want to schedule outside of that will only be an incentive to your pocket. Right? There will not be a negative for you if you lose to Ohio State, Georgia in a regular season game. If you lose an out-of-conference game against an SEC team from a Big Ten schedule, it will not negatively impact you. I don't know if that's I don't really know where I'm going with that point, but I don't hate it is the only thing. I feel like everyone's clutching pearls right now hating this. Well, we don't even – I think it makes sense because of where all of the talent is dispersing. That's my only point.
I don't hate it. I just think the timing is way off.
I don't like it.
Oh, they've squeezed everything into the windows. I mean, since 2021, we've gone from, hey, by the way, you can start paying these athletes. Are there any rules on it? No. They're coming, though. We're going to talk about that in the local hour. We're going to let you pay these players. And then in 2020, after COVID, it was like, oh, by the way, all of you guys get free years of eligibility. And then also, by the way, y'all can just leave whenever you want and pick up and play wherever you want the next. And we did all of those things and then changed the college football playoff format all in like 4 years.
I think what I hate most about it is the fact that it shows that change isn't stopping anytime soon. And I think the further down the line we go, the worse the product of college football gets. I get that the BCS and the you had to be perfect system was flawed, and it's probably outdated with the way talent acquisition works.
Yeah.
I also don't think that there are 16 teams that can compete for a national title, as dispersed as the talent may be. I don't think that by the end of the regular season, there's 16 teams that are deserving of a national title, as talented as they are on paper. That's not what matters here.
Maybe I should have put it this way. Are the teams that are good enough are at one or two, the top 2 teams in college football, how much closer are they to teams 14, 15, and 16 right now than they were 10 years ago?
It's closer, but I still don't think...
I would say it's way closer.
Did you think there were 12 teams that had a shot at winning a national title this year in the playoff?
But see, I don't like doing that because I feel like we feel that way about any sport in the playoffs. Like we put like 10 teams or whatever in a playoff, and we don't feel like all of them can win it.
My overarching point is that Ohio State and the 14th ranked team last year were a whole hell of a lot closer than Miami and Ohio State were in 2003 from the 14th ranked team. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's great.
And for that purpose alone, I think you had to expand the playoff.
I don't think so.
The final point I would make is we sit here and we talk about shared revenue coming down the road, and one thing we talk about is this is going to kind of calm down a lot of the player movement potentially because there's going to be contracts involved. These players are going to be bound into a program for the next calendar year or whatever, and I feel like that we need to experience that before we make any other major changes in this playoff.
That is a fact. That is 100% a fact.
Like, we have no idea what that's going to look like, and we're already talking about, like, we need more.
The good news is, I think I'm going to give you some details tonight about what the actual revenue sharing model is going to look like and what player acquisition strategies are going to look like and what is expected to be the next 6 or 7 months. I was talking back and forth to some people before the show today. There is optimism that the House settlement will be finalized within the next several months, and that outcome, that settlement out of that, and the structure of what college football rules and regulations look like on the player acquisition front will be settled in this class. So it will impact, the rumors are, and the speculation is, it will impact the 2026 recruiting class. So the days of the Wild Wild West in the NIL era, I do think, are coming to a close. That is a good news. That's good news in my mind for college football. I don't know how the likes of Oregon feel about that, but I feel good about there actually being some type of regulation coming to the player acquisition model on this side of the sport. I understand why people are upset, though. You know what upsets me? What really grinds my gears? When I find random subscriptions in my bank account that have been just taxing me month over month, and I had no clue. Just have you? Has it ever happened to you?
Happened to me the other day.
Oh my Lord, wouldn't happen to you if you had Rocket Money. What is Rocket Money, ladies and gentlemen? Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions today and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. If you go to rocketmoney.com/gameon today, you can get started. Again, that's rocketmoney.com/gameon. rocketmoney.com/game
on.
Speaking of game on, we got a score update.
Wes Johnson looks like he's about to be ejected out of the game for arguing about something.
Hell yeah, Wes Johnson.
4-2.
Turn me up one time, son. All right, Wes Johnson, surprisingly small man.
Yes.
I believe that.
Yeah. Welcome in. We got a loaded show for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about some of these NFL players coming back to college to coach football teams, be head coaches. We got some spiraling programs. Cam Ward talks about the bowl game halftime decision finally. And we're in a time of the offseason where folks are writing articles that I'm just like, damn, dude, I need your PR agent. That's what I need. I need your agent or whoever's handling your public relations, because they got folks out here writing stories about you that make no sense. We're going to talk about another one of those, like that one from Texas Tech a couple of weeks ago. We got another one tonight. Somebody labeled a quarterback whisperer that I don't know where it's coming from. I got no clue, but I can't wait to talk about it. Let's open tonight's show by making sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Like, subscribing, rate, reviewing, okay? If you miss any portion of tonight's broadcast, it will be made readily available. However, wherever you get your podcast, just search the Film Guy Network. If you're not already subscribed to this network, you're probably not watching us live right now, but if that's you, I appreciate you for being here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. All right, let's talk about these spiraling programs. This is an article written today by the Saturday Blitz. And it really just gives us an opportunity to label the football programs that we think are spiraling while also commenting on this article here. Boys, I'll open the floor. Who is an example of a college football program right now that is spiraling on the downspin?
Well, I know this was a team that was mentioned in the article, but Kentucky definitely fits.
Kentucky down bad.
If you want to talk about spiraling from you were towards the top and now you're way down towards the bottom, Kentucky doesn't fit that because they were never really one of these top tier teams in the SEC. But Kentucky was at least a respectable program for a few years under Mark Stoops, and I know that they fluctuated a lot, but I think that considering where they were just like 2 years ago to where they are now, there's no direction with this program. You just gave Mark Stoops a big extension because he turned down the A&M job. That's a program heading in the wrong direction for sure.
The USC Trojans are definitely one of these teams too.
How did they not make this list, by the way?
That's honestly,
I almost wanted to fire
that's
whoever
what
wrote
surprised
this.
me the most is the fact that they three years ago. Is this Lincoln Riley's third or fourth year?
Fourth. Year four.
4 years ago, Lincoln Riley was brought on. He was bringing Caleb Williams with him, and he was going to bring that program back to prominence. And it has progressively gotten worse every year since he left. Since he left Oklahoma. I don't understand how this is not one of those programs.
Another
what's
football
the future
team
for this team?
Yeah, none. Hassan Longstreet. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you had
5-star QB.
You had the best quarterback in the country for 2 years, and you went
7-5 last
7-5
year.
with him. It's like
unfortunate.
Yeah.
A team that wasn't on here that I thought should have been, or at least in my mind, I don't know where the optimism is. Missouri. Like Missouri had a Brady Cook good junior year, coming back for a senior year with Luther Burden, the entire wide receiver corps, a first round right tackle on the roster as well. Of course, they lose Cody Schrader this year, but it's like, hey, cakewalk SEC schedule, and then we're out here laying eggs. Okay, so and it doesn't look very good moving forward for Missouri. I know they got a couple of blue chippers here and there, but it ain't like they're really taking advantage of all the NIL laws and lawmaking that they went out and stretched themselves doing. Also, where in the hell did that $62 million go that was donated to this football program just a little while ago? Well, what are they doing with all the assets that they're supposed to have?
And not to mention, one of the blue chippers that you got is now transferred out. Williams Neri lasted 1 year for you, really not even a whole year, because
played 3 games.
Yeah, and then he called it quits. So I guess the only residing player that you could label as that is Matt Zollers at QB. That's about it for him right now, and he's not going to play this year, doesn't look like.
And also none of these 5-star quarterbacks are guarantees. We know this, right? I think we've learned that from college football recruiting over the years. I think Zollers is extremely talented, but you're gonna have to surround him with something. You know how I feel about Buddy from San Jose State. Buddy from San Jose State took over an Arizona football program after Jed Fish left, and immediately I was like, that's not gonna go well. And it didn't go well year 1. I don't know if it's gonna go very well year 2. You think Buddy from San Jose State's gonna be wearing the lei on the sideline this year, or you think he's giving that up?
I don't know. You wear it for an entire season. I don't see why you would stop.
When you're spiraling like that, something loose around your neck, not ideal. Who else?
Very true. Florida State.
Yeah.
Florida State started the spiral.
Not on this list
Also
as
not
well.
on the list.
Weird.
Florida State started the spiral last year. You followed 13-0 up with 2-10. But I mean, like, a good
it's
season.
Not even a spiral.
Yeah, a good season at Florida State this year would be 8-4, which 2 years ago would not be at all what they expected. And you're telling me that Florida State's going to win 6 more games this year than they did last year? Like, this team's in big trouble. I think that's one got overlooked exponentially in this article.
Oh, we got updates over there. My bad. All right, here was the actual teams. Y'all talked about Kentucky. Oklahoma State makes this list. I think this is more of an indication in the public opinion that Mike Gundy's on the backside of the hill.
Yeah, I think
and I understand that.
Like Oklahoma State was a team for a while. It was like, hey, they're a top 15 team. Oh, they're in the top 10. Oh, they lost in November. All right, well, back to where they were. And like sometimes they'd win Bedlam, but other than that, like it wasn't like Oklahoma State was ever one of these teams that were super prominent. And likewise, it's not like they've had a major fall off. I think it's just they've been kind of a steady regression. So I don't think that Oklahoma State's necessarily spiraling. I think that it's kind of an indication that the end is near for Mike Gundy, just because he's been there for 16 seasons now.
Oh yeah, he's been there for a long time.
Like he's one of the more long tenured coaches in college football. So it makes
he's going on year 19.
That long,
dude. He's been there a minute.
So
I'll look it up.
It makes sense that they're kind of quote spiraling, but when you say spiral, it seems like it's this dramatic fall. I don't think that's what Oklahoma State is.
I also do think of all the people that clutch their pearls about NIL and paying athletes, Oklahoma State to be the one out here being like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Mike Gundy being the one to do that. Oklahoma State for the longest time. Now I know the primary booster passed away a while ago, but the billionaire, Oklahoma State was one of these football programs, or should have been one of these football programs that kind of should have been out on the forefront on the spending the money on the NIL front, because they've had a ton of money at that football program. T. Boone Pickens was the guy for a long time that donated a bunch of money. I don't know if they've since replaced him, I hope I didn't kill anybody. Is T. Boone Pickens passed away? Will somebody look that up for me? But yeah, I do think Oklahoma State's head coach and Mike Gundy missed an opportunity to embrace the idea that you could be a Texas Tech version of this. Go out and buy good football players because you live in an area of the country with some boosters that care about football, that have money. Like that was the first thing I circled when NIL came out, was like, oh, well, all we got to find is the richest people who give a shit about college football, and then ask them to go out and buy players. And by the way, the last 3 years, that's exactly what we've seen. We've seen football teams go out, identify their richest boosters, and beg them for money. And the teams who had the richest boosters had the biggest classes. So I was very surprised over the last 3 or 4 years to watch Oklahoma State clutch pearls on this when they very well could have been aggressive in this forefront, I would imagine. NC State on this list, understand it.
Understand it, yeah.
I think NC State's biggest problem, and you got to watch out for these guys, okay? Because a lot of them it's every year now with this roster turnover, and so went out and bought a big class as Texas Tech this year. So went out and bought a big transfer portal class, and now all of a sudden they're preseason ranked like NC State was last year. And we sat here all offseason, we're like, hey, just because you went out and bought groceries don't mean they was good groceries. You went out and bought Grayson McCall. Like, Grayson McCall ain't great. Didn't think he was. And he comes out, didn't play very well. You got to be very, very cautious of these football programs that go out and buy what they think is a good roster when they have zero background in terms of quality talent acquisition. All right, you got to still buy good players, and NC State blew the wad last year on some bad ones.
I feel like NC State is just a team that people love picking just for the heck of it in the ACC every other year. Like, I don't think people really analyze what's going on in their roster ever. It's just like, NC State's always a pretty fun team. Let's pick them as a dark horse.
Yeah, but you can't treat the ACC like it's the AFC South. That's not how it works.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. And I think that last year it was, they got Grayson McCall and they got a really good wide receiver. Maybe that could be fun for them. They said no. Like, it doesn't. That can't be the sole purpose of this.
Arkansas on this list, I don't think Arkansas is spiraling. I think Arkansas is in limbo.
I think Arkansas was spiraling before they hired Sam Pittman, and Sam Pittman kind of brought some stability. Now,
limbo. I think they're flatlined right now.
I don't think that, and I mean, like, they might fire Sam Pittman and you might start this over, but I don't think Arkansas is currently spiraling. Like, if you told Arkansas fans you can have what you have right now, what you had 5 years ago, they would take Sam Pittman right now every day of the week. I think a team that is like fully spiraled out of control isn't spiraling, is like completely gone, is Stanford. That team is lost.
Hey, now, brought Andrew Luck back. Brought Andrew Luck back to be director of player personnel.
Okay.
All right.
Does that really change anything for you?
He's out here on Pat McAfee speaking the game, though.
They haven't won 5 regular season games since 2018.
Oh, no, it's tragically bad. There's no doubt about that. And the reason that David Shaw left was because Stanford got real uppity about all this. Stanford's like, we got to spend money on football outside of just the operations department? Hell no. We're an academic school.
I mean, your starting quarterback transferred out to go be a backup.
Yeah, that's tough. Now, what Andrew is out here selling is that Stanford's NIL is a 40-year approach. You know,
40?
You come to Stanford, and we might not be able to pay you, but you're going to be around a bunch of people who are already making millions. All these nerds we got out here, you could be bumping elbows with in Econ 101, and then you're building your
social circle?
Yeah, you're building your circle, your network. You're out here working the netting the work, I guess.
That's about the nerdiest way to recruit somebody to a school.
Or, Andrew Luck. I'm optimistic about Andrew Luck coming back to college football. I think it's entertaining, at least.
Yes.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call Andrew Luck
a huge entertainer.
I wouldn't call Andrew Luck entertaining. I think that's like the last thing Andrew Luck is.
That's fair. Mississippi State, I get it. But are you really spiraling when you start at the bottom?
Yeah, like there's a lot of these where it's just like bottom feeders that are just like.
Well, I hope I didn't piss a Mississippi State fan off that found us tonight.
I think they would agree with you.
I think they would. Agree with you.
I think Mississippi State fans know their place.
I don't agree with Washington being on this list. I think Jeff Fisher's a good football coach. I also like Steve Belichick. I'm sure really good, but is Steve Belichick like a top 10 defensive coordinator that we got to be like dreadful and crying that we lost?
No,
because he went to go coach with his dad. I don't feel that way about Steve Belichick. I
think the only way you could argue that they're spiraling is that you were a national championship competing team 2 years ago, and now you're kind of moving back to the 8-4, 9-3 range. But that's not spiraling; that's just regressing. I
think the biggest regression that happened to Washington is getting out of the Pac-12 and getting into the Big Ten. They were perennially in that top 4 range in the Pac-12. It seemed like towards the end of the Pac-12's run, and now you go into the Big Ten where it ain't that easy. All right, it's not as easy as it was, or at least it felt like in the Pac-12. Pac-12 felt like teams that were anywhere from 10 to 25 for the longest time in terms of the actual blue chip ratio of their talent. And now you go into the Big Ten, and 4 or 5 of those rosters have blue chip rosters on them. That wasn't necessarily the case over there in the Pac-12. NFL players coming. Any more thoughts on spiraling programs?
Nah.
Think we're good. There's some NFL players coming back to coach in college football, and I guess I'll let you open with this topic because I don't have an athletic subscription. I read the article through the sneaky ways of reading the article.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's the best way to do it.
That's the only way to do it. Sorry.
Shout out Rocket Money.
Shout out Rocket Money.
Unwanted subscriptions. There's a kind of trend going on right now of a lot of former NFL players going into these predominantly HBCU head coaching jobs to kind of, one, bring life into these programs, and two, be a major recruiting boost, simply because you want to play for a guy like Mike Vick or Eddie George or Deion Sanders when he was there, or Deshaun Jackson. And I think it's kind of an interesting topic, and The Athletic did a really good job of kind of entertaining it, of like, is this just a what the future of these smaller schools is going to become, where it's, you might not have a guy who's the most qualified coach, but is such a big name that it's going to bring asses in chairs, to quote the article, and it's going to bring players simply because it's going to attract talent, similar to what we saw with Deion Sanders.
And look, that's the one that everybody recalls, right? Everyone's like, look at the history and the track record of what Deion's been able to do. Deion, to me, is a totally different case than even like a Michael Vick, or even definitely like a Deshaun Jackson. Deion Sanders walks into a room for the next however long he lives as Deion Sanders.
Correct.
And he stops the room no matter what. And he's a totally different case in this in the sense that Deion coached like relatively high-level high school football for 4 years before he got the opportunity at Jacksonville State, and then turned around Jackson? And then went to Colorado, obviously, and having the connection to a first-round caliber quarterback being your son, and Power 5 caliber safety being your son, and Travis Hunter being your pseudo-adopted son, certainly did not help or did not hurt your chances of immediate success once you got to Colorado. There's a lot of them, though. I want to run down this. Deshaun Jackson coaching at Delaware State, Mike Vick at Norfolk State, Trent Dilfer obviously did this to an extent at UAB. Eddie George has been coaching at Tennessee State for 3 years now, and obviously Deion. My general overall thought about this is that through the history of my playing career and the history of following the sport of football, great players are not great coaches. They're just not. Historically, and that's every sport. That's in basketball as well. I think the first example of this was Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson became the player coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, and everybody's like, oh, Magic just tells people to do it how he did it, not knowing that we can't do it like that because you're freaking Magic Johnson. I find this happening a lot in coaching, where some of the best coaches in the sport were just mediocre players, or maybe not even good players at all. They had to figure out how to be great coaches.
Yeah, I think the only example I could think of off the top of my head is Larry Bird. I think coached for 2 years in the NBA, was actually good at it, but ultimately just decided, I don't want to do this. I don't like being a head coach, and quit. So that's like the only example I could think of. But like, when you think of players that turn into good coaches, and I'm going to go the basketball route again because that's what I know of. Like, JJ Redick is doing well with the Los Angeles Lakers right now, but JJ Redick was not some phenomenal athlete or anything like that. He had to understand basketball at an analytical level for him to be good at basketball, and that's showing up right now.
I think Harbaugh is like the only example of this where you can make an argument where they were a good player and like a really good coach.
Yeah, and all he's got going for him is like 3 generations of really, really great coaches prior to him.
Exactly.
Dad was a coach, grandpa was a coach, brother's a coach. Like,
yeah,
it's a little bit different of an example.
Jason Kidd's another reason, but I do think that it's kind of
not been great, has he?
No, not well liked either. No.
I do think it's an interesting topic, though, because it is kind of breathing life into these lesser known programs. I think at the very least, like whether or not you think any of these guys on this list are going to be national title head coaches, I don't think they are.
I mean, how often has Norfolk State been talked about on any platform with regards to football?
Next to never.
Never. And now they are. And that's the whole purpose of hiring these guys. Now, I'm not ignoring the Mike Ditka comment. I'm very well aware of who Mike Ditka was as a tight end. But I will say this. I've seen some Mike Ditka highlights. And I know Mike Ditka's a Hall of Famer. But I think Mike Ditka was a little bit more gritty and a little bit more lunch pail than he was uber talented. Would we all agree?
I'd agree with that.
Okay. I think he lunch pailed his way to a Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
If Mike Ditka were drafted as a tight end right now in the world of NFL football, he's Charlie Warner. You know? Not to
Ain't
be a
no
dick.
wrong with Charlie Warner.
Not to be a Ditka. But yeah, not actually like a legendary, like greatest tight end of all time. Just really, really gritty. Made the Hall of Fame. I could be wrong on the Ditka career. If I am, please correct me. But I don't think I am. Will you look up all-time stats on Ditka? Did he ever go for like north of 800 receiving yards? I know, totally different game. Attached tight end. I think it kind of proves my point there. Also, a lot of these guys aren't like tremendous successes. Like the Dilfer thing's going downhill fast at UAB. I don't know how much sustained success Deion's going to have. And 8-4 is good. 8-4 is really good. But it's not like Deion won a title. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He just overperformed the 6-6 standard that most people have for him going into this year.
Taking a program out of the dumps.
Yeah, it did great. But did it with really, really good players that he doesn't have anymore.
Yeah, I think you're forgetting that Mike Ditka set the rookie record for receiving yards.
What was it?
1,076 that Brock Bowers just broke.
All right. I'm wrong on Ditka.
Did that in 14
But what did he do
games.
after that?
I'm wrong on Ditka.
Had a 900-yard season after that, 700 yards, 900 yards. Quick fall off after that, though. But there were 5 years where he was a threat. And this
He was
is
a dog.
This is the 60s, too.
Okay. All right. Sorry, Ditka. Did great in kicking and screaming, by the way. Tremendous role.
Underrated movie.
Very underrated movie. Give me a juice box.
Yeah, you haven't seen that, have you?
I kind of spaced out for a second.
Soccer.
Go get me a juice box.
Will Ferrell.
Everybody way buy the juice box. Buy juice box. Anyways, I'm good on that. Y'all good on that?
Yeah, I think it's just an interesting topic because, I mean, like, if Mike Vick has success and then Deshaun Jackson, like, we obviously saw, like, what the peak of this can be. Deion Sanders brought that Jackson State to a new heights of the program.
Fact.
He's kind of doing it at Colorado as well through, honestly, the same format of just, hey, I'm Deion Sanders, come play for me.
Oh, he had a great quote yesterday about just I don't go to houses. I don't do recruiting visits. Y'all know where I'm at. Y'all can come out here to Colorado.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a great approach, but seems to be working for him on the transfer portal trail.
Yeah.
If it were me, I would never I would never achieve or try to achieve sustained growth and sustained success through the portal. We would immediately try to get portal players in, build an immediate success story, win a couple more games than we did the year before, but then immediately be pouring our lives and souls into the high school recruiting metrics. Now, hard to do that in Boulder. I understand that. Hard to be a recruiting powerhouse in the Midwest in Colorado. I understand that. And I'm very respectful of that fact, but you got to at least try on the high school recruiting rankings, in my opinion.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
And I guess his method is, I'm just going to sign guys that could start as a freshman. Okay. Cam Ward finally addressed the sitting at halftime. I want to read some quotes from you from this article today, or to you from this article today. While Cam Ward hasn't decided if he will throw at the NFL Combine next week, the quarterback knows how he will answer any scouts or teams personnel who ask him if he quit on the Miami Hurricanes team by not finishing his final game with them. Quote, "Okay, you're either going to draft me or you're not," Ward said Monday night before receiving the Davey O'Brien Award as the nation's top quarterback. Quote, "If you don't draft me, that's your fault. You've got to remember you're the same team that's got to play me for the rest of my career, and I'll remember that." He continued. Yeah.
That's got Josh Rosen right.
Ooh, I just think we all got what we needed out of it. They seen things that they think they need to work on for this season upcoming, and they also knew, what I had on the line. I'm sorry if it seems like I'm struggling to read this. It's because I am. We feel like we're doing what's best for the program and myself. I mean, it was a hard decision, especially when some guys on our team didn't play who I thought should have played. It's an interesting one.
Wow. Yeah.
It was also, those guys thought about their future the same way I thought about mine.
This is a bad read.
It's a really bad read. I didn't even, printing it off, I didn't even recognize he threw his teammates under the bus there. Who opted out for Miami?
Heck if I know.
I don't know.
I didn't know either. The quote right there, I mean, it was a hard decision, especially when some guys on our team didn't play who I thought should have played. It's an interesting way to explain why you set out on your team. I wasn't upset with the decision to do so. What I was upset with was Mario Cristobal sitting on his hands. Mario Cristobal waited a month to be asked about it on a radio station somewhere and got all up in arms about how the media is full of shit and they're a bunch of bullcrap artists that are out here trying to get clicks. And I do appreciate the coach coming out and being so stern-handed on it. But a month after the fact is crazy to me. And I tweeted about this, and a Miami fan hopped in my mention and said, well, it's the first time he's been asked about it. I've been in a bunch of post-game press conferences over the last 5-6 years. A ton of them, lots of them. And all the good coaches I go in there listening to after the game, 45 minutes afterwards, after they done talked to their team, after the SID done come over to them, after they done got the stat sheet, after they've had all of the time to prepare themselves before they go to the microphone, all of them that I've listened to know exactly what the narrative outside of the football program is right then and there when they go to the microphone. And everybody watching that Miami football game during that bowl game knew what the narrative was. Cam Ward just quit on his football team. There were so many hot takes all over social media. You cannot tell me that going to that podium, Mario Cristobal did not know that his starting quarterback was getting shat upon on the timeline. And if he didn't, shame on the SID and shame on the head coach because he's not doing his job properly. Your job when you get in front of that microphone, in my opinion, is to protect your players first and foremost and give a reasonable answer and definition and explanation to the performance of your football team to your fan base. In that order, protect your football players at the microphone, give definitive answers as to why you either had success or did not in that football game.
And if you had, this probably would have resulted in Cam Ward not doing this. Like if you just go ahead and give a quick statement on it, go ahead and get in front of everybody and let everybody know like what the situation was, what your thought was on it. Like it would have been nice and easy. And someone probably isn't searching Cam Ward for an off-season question about it. Like obviously there's going to be questions about it during its draft process. Like that is going to be something he is asked about, but it may not be in this type of a public platform.
Yeah, you got to know better.
You also better be good. Not even good. You better be great.
Ooh,
talking like this.
This is one of those quotes that's either going to come back in 5 years and be like, Cam Ward. It's like the Deion Sanders quote. Oh, you got the 8th pick. I'm not even going to be there by then.
And look, I think
it's going to age very well or very poorly.
I think it's great or it's good that he believes in himself at this rate because the last thing I want is a non-confident quarterback. That's the last thing I want. A guy that doesn't seem like he carries himself like he's the alpha. I kind of want one of those in my organization. I need one of those at that pivotal position. However, you better. I wonder what this looks like and what this sounds like and how Cam Ward sounds in front of a microphone when things aren't going well, because it's coming very, very soon. There is going to be a time where he either is drafted by a football team that is not very good and they lose a lot of football games, or he simply struggles because it's a growing pain, right? We saw this with one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen in the ranks and the prospects in the terms of Caleb Williams. Struggle a lot this year and have a lot of questions asked about him and his football team. Is this going to be the way we approach the media when we get to the NFL? I don't know if that's the case. I also think some of this, I know I'm great, shows up all over his film in positives and negatives. Okay. I do think there is a real sense of calmness about him in the pocket, but there's also a sense of, nah. You know,
I don't give a shit.
I don't give a shit about none of this. I'm great. And it leads to really negative plays for him. And when this game speeds up at the next level, I think that's only going to increase if we don't clean up some of this stuff. By the way, I will be giving you my final thoughts on the 2025 quarterback draft board directly after this next segment, which I think we're going to continue to bring these to the forefront of our audience on this network because these things just... they blow my mind. Guys, y'all know who Jeff Brom is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Louisville.
Yeah, head coach of Louisville. Former XFL guy, had that awesome clip. Is this not football? Am I not breathing?
Yep.
I'm going to go out here and play. Jeff Brom had a pretty lengthy career as a football player at the quarterback position and has kind of, as of the last 4 or 5 years, become a thing in the world of college football coaching. However, would anybody connect Jeff Brom with like quarterback royalty?
No.
How about quarterback whisperer? Would you ever mention Jeff Brom and quarterback whisperer in the same sentence?
I'm sure he's whispered to a quarterback.
No.
Okay. Well, that title of this article today, Jeff Brom addresses how he earned, quote, quarterback whisperer label.
Who gave him that?
News to me. News to me. Now, when I think of quarterback whisperer, there's only one name that even comes to my mind because he's got a track record of like not only producing a shitload of Heisman Trophy winners, but Heisman Trophy winners that went on to the NFL to do really, really well. Who is that?
Dan Mullen?
No, it's Lincoln Riley. It's Lincoln Riley by a mile in the world of college football right now. That's actively coaching. I know Dan Mullen just got a head coaching job, but the only guy I would label this with in the world of college football is Lincoln Riley, and he's got all kinds of questions about him as a head coach, but some of this stuff is nuts to me. He goes through this entire article, and I don't blame it on Jeff Brom. I blame it on whoever is writing this article about him, because Jeff's just answering questions, okay? He's being asked about how his track record with quarterbacks and why he has so much success, and Jeff's talking about starts with his career as a player, and his brother played as a quarterback as well, and he's been around good coaching, and he went through the coach speak about how he goes about the process of quarterback play and how their offense is really, really good about being adaptable and all this good stuff. I just don't understand how, with the history and the track record of 1 year with Tyler Shock, Jack Plummer, not even the good Plummer, Jack Plummer, and Aiden O'Connell. That's our track record of success with quarterbacks, and we got folks asking this man about being a quarterback whisperer.
Hey, Aiden O'Connell's an NFL starter.
Oh, yeah, for your Raiders. That's right. Being drafted and replaced this year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got some starts in, though.
But
Almost
Aiden O'Connell was out here lighting it the hell up in college?
No.
To the point where we got to be talking about his coach being a whisperer?
No.
Yeah, 1 year with Tyler Shuck, his 7th year of college football. And look, Tyler Shuck does some cool stuff. He's got some highlights that are like, wow, man, you got some real arm talent at 6'5", 240 pounds. But quarterback whisperer? Now, all that being said, if he turns Miller Moss into a first-round caliber quarterback, I'm going to shut the hell up, and we're going to anoint this man the quarterback whisperer.
Well, so what the response to this is, right?
What?
This is just a writer doing a really good job at their job.
I guess.
I mean, like,
I don't know. I sat through a 35-minute meeting today with my bosses talking about no more clickbaity headlines across the board. It don't get much clickbaitier than that there.
Yeah, and I think like there are some institutions that necessarily don't care as much about the integrity. Unlike,
look, there's very few people, and I mean very few people at both levels of college football and the NFL that I would label as a quarterback whisperer. Like that should be reserved from elite names in this type of conversation. Jeff Brom, not one of them.
The end of this article is just, it's chef's kiss. Okay, let me load this up and roll all the way down to the bottom. All right, let's see here. Sorry, this is great content. In 2025, Jeff Brom brought on USC Trojans starting quarterback Miller Moss to Louisville. He is presumably going to compete for the starting job. Along with him, the Cardinals have Brady Allen, Deuce Adams, Sam Valton, Travis Egan, Ryan Zimmerman. I guess he's no longer playing baseball. He's going to get into college football. And Mason Mims listed on their roster. Loaded. Absolutely loaded quarterback room for the quarterback whisperer up there at Louisville.
Indeed.
Buddy, if you came to my office and said, Coach, we're going to write up a bio on you. We're going to call you the quarterback whisperer because you had one good year with Tyler Shock and you just signed Miller Moss. I think I'm going to probably decline that interview. Would you?
I don't know if I don't know if the writer probably said we're going to title it "How You Became the Quarterback Whisperer."
Tyler Shock lit it up though. All right, let's move on.
We got a super chat.
We do. Random question from Alan Berry says, of the coaches at high-profile jobs right now, who's the least likely to win a title? Keep on the good work. So this is kind of a broad question right here. Of the coaches at high-profile jobs. So high-profile jobs would be all of the top-end SEC jobs, all of the top-end Big Ten jobs, Clemson, Miami, Florida State. So I'm going Mike Norvell. Least likely.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Yes.
But then again,
to put it nice and simple,
Mike Norvell had a season where he put all the right pieces together.
I mean, that was 2 years over. It's the thing that everyone forgets about that is they finished, I think they won 7 games in a row to close 2022. with the same core of football players that they went into 2023 with, and then signed Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
And then he went off. But that was a 2-year transfer portal build for Florida State where they hit on a bunch of guys. Fiske or Braden Fisk. They hit on the defensive end that just won Rookie of the Year. Jared Verse. They hit on him 2 years out. So, like, a lot of that stuff was a 2-year build for that football program.
I would almost still say, though, that they're closer to winning a national title than Lincoln Riley is.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would pick them to win a title right now before I would pick the USC to win a title, even as bad as they were last year, because at least I know Mike Norvell's going to recruit at a high level on the trail. He's going to get some good guys out of a high school class.
Cyber Proxy with another super chub says, expansion has taken the gravity of rivalry games. If my team isn't having a championship season, the next best thing is to ruin a rival's chances. If Michigan kept OSU out, gas on that rivalry.
Precisely.
Yeah, you say precisely. I want to challenge your supremacy as a college football fan. You guys say that these things mean more to you because of the logos. So why are rivalry games going to mean less to you?
Because you can beat your rival and they can still win a national title.
Yeah, but you still hate them.
That's fine, but they can
The
still...
weight of the game might have been impacted, but the hatred within it does not.
That's fine, but I mean, the weight is signified through hatred. The Iron Bowl was such a big deal for so many years because it basically decided the SEC West. You take that away now,
I would argue that Alabama LSU decided the SEC West during that time, but that's
some of the biggest Iron Bowl games decided the SEC West. Like, the Iron Bowl is at its peak when Auburn and Alabama were playing for the SEC West. That's what made that game so important.
Right now, though, what's stopping that from happening other than Auburn's bad? The SEC West could still be decided in that rivalry game.
I mean, there is no SEC West. No. And again,
though, representing a team in that.
But then we're talking about how going to a conference championship, winning the conference championship meant something for your playoff chances, whereas now, we just talked about it last night, the meaning of conference championships has been completely blown up.
Folks asking about the Paul Finebaum quotes from today. We'll talk about it in the local hour. We got a couple more things to hammer out to end this national hour, like this one right here. I've made my final decision on the 2025 quarterback draft board. Now, I know I'm not the NFL draft guru, and I know you guys don't come here to listen to NFL draft takes, but let's talk college football, okay? And let's talk about these guys and where I would go with this decision. I'm going to tell you right now, if I had to draft a quarterback this year, I'm avoiding drafting one in the top 10 because at that point, I feel like drafting a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders in this draft at the top of the draft is way too risky for me. Okay, I understand drafting quarterbacks in that top 10 range that are bona fide, very clean prospects that you don't have any questions on at all. Now, I know the idea of a perfect prospect doesn't come around very often, but unless I'm 100% sold on either of those two guys, I'm avoiding drafting a quarterback in the top 10. And I think I talked about that when I evaluated both of these football players. I think Shedeur has physical, athletic limitations that might cause problems in the NFL. Okay. I don't think he's a great athlete. I think he's got plenty of a good enough arm, and I think he's a great processor, all those things. I do think he has a propensity to bail out of pockets that they don't need to be bailed out of. You got to stand in. You're not a good enough athlete to spin out of them. Those are big negatives that you take on the eval. I've talked about Cam Ward tonight. There are way too many things on Cam Ward's tape that just can't happen on Sundays, that cost football games on Sundays, that would terrify me to draft him inside the top 5, because if all of the negatives show up, I'm out of a job. Now, if he becomes what he thinks he's going to become, then yeah, we just drafted the next MVP. I'm dubious of that, and it would scare me of it. So here's what I would ultimately do. I would move back into the first round and draft Jackson Dart. That's what I would do. And just be okay with that process and hope that he turns into a really serviceable 10-year starter for me. If that doesn't work, if I can't posture my way into the bottom end of that first round because it's too hard, then I'm probably going to settle for a third round draft selection of a guy like Dylan Gabriel. I feel like I have to have a starter, or a Kyle McCord. I favor Gabriel and Tyler Shuck a little bit more. I would take the Shuck kid out of Louisville if I felt like I needed a high-end, big ceiling guy, and I had somebody on my roster that I felt like could start for me and be a serviceable starter. If I didn't have a serviceable starter, we just take Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, or you could
be okay with a B+ NFL starter.
Or you could just trade for Sam Darnold or
do that. Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
That's what you would do?
Kirk Cousins is up for sale.
Or Russell Wilson.
Yeah, he is. Kirk Cousins always up for sale, cuz.
Russell Wilson, dude.
Oh, yeah, Russell. What are y'all's thoughts on the NFL draft?
I think more so than ever, and I feel like this has kind of been the trend the last few years, where there's a lot of risk that you take, and it's always like I feel like the last 3 quarterback draft classes has been like, are they worth the top 5 spot, or is it just there by demand because of position? Like, I feel like other than Caleb Williams, where even Caleb Williams came in with a lot of questions, like it was like, I don't know. It feels like there's less and less more just bona fide prospects than there ever have been.
Yeah.
But then again, like we've always talked about, it's a 50% hit rate regardless in the first
Feels
round.
like it's lower nowadays.
Do you think, though, that part of the reason why it feels like these, because I feel like this has been talked about specifically at the quarterback position for the last few years, of these draft classes don't feel loaded. Outside of like the Bryce Young year, there were some really solid prospects in that class. But it feels like for the last few years, people have brought this point up, and I'm starting to think that maybe this is because you're not having a bunch of them enter the draft collectively. Yeah. Like Carson Beck, in years prior, would have been going to the NFL draft this year, but because NIL can give him $4 million to go to Miami for 1 year, and I know the injury happened, but just kind of speaking realistically here, like he probably would have been in this class, and a few other names probably would have been in this class as well.
Cam Ward declared last year.
Yeah.
Declared for the NFL draft. So yeah, you're right. A lot of these guys are getting pushed back.
Yeah, you're not having like these, like in years prior where the entire, like a majority, or I shouldn't say majority, but the key pieces of the 2021 quarterback recruiting class, those guys aren't all collectively entering the draft in the same year anymore. So it's kind of more sporadic of, it has dwindled down to maybe you just have 1 or 3 guys that you kind of like and the rest are stay away from.
We are luckily coming to the end of that, though.
The National Hour?
No, like super seniors. Super seniors.
Super seniors, yeah. Should be the last year.
Unless you're a JUCO.
That's so weird. It's so weird to me. I think it's great that we're going to revitalize the JUCO football market because it was dying off pretty heavily. Maybe it'll revitalize that. I'm good to go to the local hour. Y'all good?
Let's do it.
Let's head over. Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You like that? You really like that? Let's shut up and grab some tape. JUCO, doesn't it?
I have no idea. It looks like a high school stadium.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen. We have a whole nother hour coming up to you, and some say it is our best hour, it's our local hour. We finna talk that dog, and it is an absolutely loaded one. There was a promotion today, director of scouting named at the University of Georgia. We're going to give you the latest on the 2 top offensive tackles in the 2026 class. Will 2025 be the year the home streak ends? We'll talk about it tonight. ESPN released their season-defining game for the University of Georgia. We'll give our opinions on that. What is a baseline for a good season at the University of Georgia this year? We got a big board update coming today. We're going to take a look at some safety prospects for you guys. And I think there is growing optimism about regulation coming to the forefront of recruiting in college football. That's good news. We also have a football Q&A for BA today as well. We're going to crack into some nostalgic tape. It's slam-packed, absolutely slam-packed here on our loaded local hour. But I want to start with today's news. James Ellis, excuse me, guys. I need to slow down. James Ellis has been named and promoted to the director of scouting. Now, for those of you who don't know, which is probably majority of the people listening today, who is James Ellis? Is probably your first question. James Ellis, from my knowledge, joined the football program in 2008 as an off-field recruiting assistant, essentially. The first person I ever had mention James Ellis to me was actually Dan Lanning. Lanning noted, I think his term was psycho, a guy that was just fanatical in his effort during the litany of summer workouts that they always put together. And now, I don't know if you know anything about Dan Lanning, but if Dan Lanning is recognizing your work ethic, you're probably a lunatic, okay? And you're probably going to climb pretty quickly. And that's exactly what's happened with Ellis. He has climbed to be the director of scouting at the University of Georgia. And every time an assistant coach has left the University of Georgia over the last 3 or 4 years to become a head coach somewhere else or to go to another job somewhere else, one of their first goals is to try to pull James up off the roster or up off the staff, it has seemed. He's been extremely loyal to not only the University of Georgia, but Kirby Smart as well. He's a lifetime state of Georgia guy. And I can tell you right now, I do a big spring tour every year. I go see a litany of high school football programs in the state of Georgia. Last year, that number climbed to 52 high school football programs, okay? And when I go to talk to high school football programs and high school recruiting coordinators and high school recruiting directors, one of the most popular names on the circuit in the state of Georgia is James Ellis. He is very, very well respected in the world of high school football in the state of Georgia particularly. He and his team will be essentially in charge of setting the board and looking through the available options in the portal and all that, etc. Okay, and I do think this is one of many moves that Kirby Smart has made that all rely around loyalty. Almost to a fault to most of you guys' opinion, to be honest with you. Okay. Some of them you're really happy that the loyalty and the dedication to sticking around you like when Trey Scott says he wants to coach for Kirby Smart forever, you guys are really, really happy. When Glenn Schumann turns down jobs everywhere to stay at the University of Georgia, you guys are really, really happy, right? When Todd Hartley, an alumnus at the University of Georgia, stays at the University of Georgia, you guys are really, really happy. But in other aspects of the loyalty-based decision-making process of the University of Georgia, you guys don't necessarily love all that much, right? Like Stacey Searles is a hot topic at the University of Georgia. James Coley is a hot topic at the University of Georgia. Mike Bobo is a hot topic at the University of Georgia. Hey, guess what? All of those guys are loyalty-based hires, right? James Coley was on the very first staff under Kirby Smart and has remained on the staff after a couple of years off at Texas A&M. Brought him back first opportunity they had to do so. The Stacey Searles hire was hey, everybody in the building loves this guy, right? Yeah, we all know him, Coach. We all love him. All right, bet. Bring him on back. All right, we are a loyalty-based program in our hiring processes. And guess what? It provides a sense of stability in your program that is really foreign in the sport of college football. I don't know if you notice, but all these other staff seem to be turning over ad nauseum every single year. And your program has done a really good job of keeping really great people inside the building. And it's not a one-way street with regards to loyalty. Kirby Smart has provided loyalty to members of his staff, and they return that in favor, like James Ellis has over the last 6 years.
I mean, in today's world of college football, I mean, loyalty is something that college football fans talk about all the time. There's no loyalty with these players. They're just seeking the best deal. They just go to any team. Like, they don't commit to a school. They just commit to money, all this talk. And because we do this to coaches and players, especially on this show, we talk about how the players get thrown under the bus for this, and the coaches aren't held to the same standard when they go take another job for more money. So I feel like it's okay to do this in this setting as well of, you got coaches that are loyal to you and they're not going anywhere else, or it doesn't appear that they're going anywhere else anytime soon. And although you may not love them to the highest ability, or you may not approve of them as much as the previous guy, I think that does speak volumes for a program to find that right now.
I think not only that, it shows you a model of consistency that is so needed in college football. And I think that's so valued here. Obviously, with Georgia's offense last year, there was wild inconsistencies coming from your players on the field. But other than that, Georgia's offense has always been fairly consistent. Georgia's defense has always been consistent. Georgia's special teams unit has always been consistent. And that's reflective of the consistency that you have with the coaching staff, because that's something that Kirby Smart clearly values. And this new hire is nothing short of that.
And it's not even a new promotion.
This promotion as well.
And I think it's been well overdue, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think James Ellis and a lot of people like James at the University of Georgia are being rewarded with their loyalty over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think it's good for them. Also, really keen observer of football, it seems. Again, you don't go from guy holding roster during summer camp, letting coach know who the next guy running in is, to the director of scouting all right, within 6 years without being a dude. All right, and this is exactly what this guy is. Like I said, his job essentially will be to set the board. All right, it's not to go out and get the players; it's to go out and identify who they should be looking at, and letting those position coaches ultimately make the final decisions with a lot of analytical data as much as possible. Should we talk about this Paul Finebaum quote today?
Yeah,
we have to.
All right, I guess I have to read it. This is now. I don't know if we can call Paul a friend of this show because Paul's never been on. I guarantee you Paul does not watch us.
Probably not.
But we are a friend of that show. I've been on several times, so I want to not tread lightly here, but I just want to read it, and then we can give opinions based off that.
It's a Paul Finebaum heater of the offseason.
It's
nothing different.
Check. This is the heat check. I frankly believe Georgia's problem is at the offensive coordinator position. Kirby Smart, for as great as I believe he is being way too loyal to Mike Bobo, and I would get rid of Bobo today. I think you could walk down Peachtree Street and get a better offensive coordinator than Bobo. Now,
Peachtree Street is such an interesting pool, too.
You got to go all the way to Atlanta to do that?
Yeah. Guys, he's referencing Buster Faulkner.
I know.
Okay, you guys did. I didn't. I just put it together as I was reading that. When I read that first quote, my mind went, walk around 30 minutes, you'll throw a rock at somebody and find somebody. But, so we're back on the dead horse of you got to fire Bobo. Right on it. Ironically, we followed it up right after talking about loyalty and then Paul criticizing Kirby for loyalness.
Loyalty to a fault. To a fault, he called it. I think at this point you're used to stuff like that. Like,
you're talking about from Bobo's perspective? From Bobo's from our perspective.
From Bobo's perspective, from the fan base's perspective, from our perspective. Like, I think if you're a Georgia fan and you haven't heard some form of criticism thrown towards Mike Bobo's way, you're either living under a rock or you just don't pay attention to the football team that much. It is what it is at that point. I think that you can analyze the criticisms that are made towards Mike Bobo. You can throw the statistics. You can throw all these things. You can throw the film up and show that, hey, say everything you want about how great Todd Monken was. The plays are the exact same. Like, there's not that much of a change. It's been the output of players and all those things. Like, there's a million different ways you can go with it. I think it's just at a point now where, and this is kind of the lazy take, but it's the off season. Things like these are going to be said about coordinators, especially when you're coming off of a year as disappointing as Georgia's offense had. Like, Carson Beck underperformed, the wide receiver room underperformed. Other than Nate Frazier and Trevor Etienne, I would say that across the board, your offense underperformed, and that's obviously going to fall in the lap of Mike Bobo, who already wasn't in fantastic standing with a lot of members of the fan base. So it makes sense to me. I don't think I necessarily agree with it. And the shot at, Buster Faulkner is the better OC. Maybe, whatever. I don't think, but...
Before you get going, I want to peel the curtain back just a little bit. Jonathan, since 8 o'clock, has been doing live show and writing live updates. By the way, I want to stop because I just looked at the numbers. People are reading the piss out of it. So keep working hard, buddy, because we're actually we're going to be able to pay the bills tomorrow.
Lights stay on?
Lights staying on inside the studio because Jonathan's out here grinding with the live updates. If you are a Georgia baseball fan, I think we're doing a great job this year. We always do. We always try to do a good job. We are making it a point to be out here covering and giving live updates on all those basketball games because it's not like baseball games because it's not like hoops. In hoops, you're on ESPN, you're on main television or at least SEC Network. Some of these baseball games, man, the only way you're going to be able to keep up with them is through live updates like what we got going on Georgia Bulldogs on SI. So that's si.com/college/Georgia. Enough of that right there. But yeah, what's the score on that?
It is tied 4-4, top of the fourth. Dogs have a runner on third, no outs.
It's got to be later than the top of the fourth.
Or sorry, top of the ninth.
Okay, top of the ninth.
Sorry, my bad.
Kennesaw State, good football or good baseball program as per usual.
I mean, the state's loaded with talent, so those schools can find some good under the radar players.
Absolutely. Finebaum on a heater. I think we can move on from that.
I was going to say this actually.
Oh yeah, my bad. I cut you off.
I just had some friends of mine send out a text because of course, they sent the quote that Paul Finebaum gave, and they said kind of hard to disagree with him here. I don't think Bobo's terrible, but I think he's a mid-play caller. And then the infamous, in my opinion, statement of this is the University of Georgia. This shouldn't be the standard. We can go out and hire anybody that we want. And that kind of irked me just because we talked about this with Ohio State fans when they were looking for a defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator of, this is Ohio State. We expect to be able to go in. And this isn't just Ohio State fans. This is people that aren't even fans of the program. They're saying, like, go hire the Green Bay Packers offensive coordinator. Like, yeah, you are the University of Georgia. You are one of the best jobs for anybody in the country, and you are a desirable location. But we continue to see in these coaching changes that, like, there aren't these massive names jumping ship to go other places. And I know that Georgia moves need a lot more than others, but it isn't like when you ask people, like, all right, if you fire Mike Bobo, who are you going to go get? Well, let's get Buster Faulkner. Well, what if Buster Faulkner doesn't want to come?
But why wouldn't he? He's at Georgia Tech. Here's why. Buster Faulkner is one more good year away from being the head coach at Wake Forest or being the head coach at insert Power 5 football program right now. That's why. I think Buster Faulkner is waiting around to become a head coach. And I'm not saying you restart your clock if you go become the offensive coordinator at Georgia, but if you leave the offensive coordinator job at Georgia Tech to become the offensive coordinator at Georgia, we probably take our name out of head coaching searches for at least another calendar year. And I think that's part of the reason. So yeah, there's that. I think it's a great name, and it's awesome that, like, Buster's a state of Georgia guy, played college football at Valdosta State, was on that Valdosta State staff, went to Southern Miss, came back, was a Georgia offensive analyst, and then became offensive coordinator at Georgia Tech. He's from Parkview High School. He's a lifetime Georgia guy. I understand. But maybe he's waiting his turn to be a head coach very, very soon. Maybe there's intel on that from a forefront too.
Not even that. Like, I think we've gone too deep into the weeds of, like, Buster Faulkner is the answer to the problems, and it's just not an attainable answer. Mike Bobo is not a bad offensive coordinator.
No.
And I think that the play calling criticisms of Mike Bobo are where I really get frustrated, because it's like the classic, and I don't want to throw your friends in the bus.
No, it's fine.
The classic is 2 runs up the middle in the pass. Mike Bobo's so predictable. There's so many more nuances to football than that, and that's not what it is.
Well, and it's so funny to me too, and because, like, when you talk about the quarterback position, like, anybody who was talking about Carson Beck this year as a Georgia fan, if people started crapping on Carson Beck's play as someone who supports Carson Beck, it was, well, his receivers can't catch the ball. But then the inverse is done with Mike Bobo, and nobody seems to care or even consider that fact of maybe why the numbers were down of Mike Bobo can't go out there and catch. Like, I just think there's so many factors that played into this year that you can't just point at the guy calling the plays, because calling plays really never felt like a major issue when the offense was so stagnant for multiple reasons.
I'm going to go and let you know right now. Okay, we talked about this pre-show. I just want to bring this to our audience's attention. Okay, Andy Catalanecki is the offensive coordinator at Penn State. They hired him out of Kansas. He spent 11 years with Leipold. This is, if you go look any top 10, top 15, top 25 offensive coordinator job open or offensive coordinator list, you're going to find Andy Catalanecki on it from Penn State. He did a really good job this year. Took him to a quarterfinal, and everybody's really, really happy with him. However, if he were Georgia's offensive coordinator, and you watch Georgia lose to a rival the way that Penn State did against Ohio State, you would lose your freaking mind. Okay? If you don't remember, Andy Catalanecki ran the same play 3 times in a row against Ohio State on the goal line, and then the 4th play decided he was going to go play action when the whole stadium knew they were going to play action. They lose the football game with an opportunity to win it, ball at the 2. Okay? If that happened at the University of Georgia, you'd want him fired, even though the world of college football thinks he's a top 10 guy at the position. All I'm trying to point out is that position, the offensive coordinator job, is so outcome-based when it's a process-based coaching position. And I think the processes at Georgia are really good. You know why I believe that? Because I believe in the head coach. And I may be an idiot for believing in Kirby Smart, but I don't think I am. I had to bring up the Catalanecki thing, man, because I watch people who think are innovative, creative coordinators that do fun stuff get on the goal line and wet down their leg.
Not even that. Like, and this isn't OC calling, but Marcus Freeman was praised universally in the Sugar Bowl for that 4th down punt thing that he did. It was genius. The balls of Marcus Freeman. This is incredible. And why was that? Because it resulted in a 1st down. Georgia jumped off sides, and Marcus Freeman's a hero. 2 games later, they ran a fake punt on 4th and 6 in the national championship. Would have worked had the receiver caught it, and Marcus Freeman was lambasted and dragged through the mud for, that's a terrible call in that moment. Everyone knew you were running fake. Why would you do that? It's the margins are so, like you said, it's all results based. If the player catches the touchdown, it's a great call. If he drops it, what are we doing? Like it's unfortunate for these guys because the success of your job is not in your hands technically. There is some way that you have to do it, but Mike Bobo drew up winners last year.
I will say this: if the starts to the football games do not get better, I'm with you.
Yep.
Now, that includes everybody. Okay, that means Arian, the X receiver can't miss a call, all right, to start the football game against Alabama. That same receiver can't drop a touchdown pass on the first possession of the football game. Okay, I might have to go back and look at it. How many 3rd and 10s this year to start drives? How many third downs ended on the first drive of the football game because a wide receiver dropped them? 3 of them against Georgia Tech to start the football game. 3. Okay, 2 of them against Alabama. So some of these games, Auburn, I think there were some drops early on in that football game as well. Mississippi State, there's an early interception because we can't get a defensive lineman's hands down. Coordinator sucks. Starts suck. I don't know if that's the case. Now, our answer as analysts can't always be we just trust Kirby Smart.
Sure. And I'm with you on, like, if you don't see improvement this year, then criticism is warranted. Like, asking for a change, I think, would be an answer for this.
We're fresh off of him taking Monken's core, all right, changing the quarterback, getting Carson in there, but having the same core around the quarterback and doing better. He did better statistically in 2023 than they did in 2022.
I know, by the way, didn't have Brock Bowers for a third of the year. Didn't have Ladd McConkey for a third of the year.
And still did better.
Had a quarterback making his first start.
He was the first guy at the University of Georgia to score more than 41 points per game since Mike Bobo, when he had the same core. So the deterioration of the talent, we've talked about a ton. Offensive line's gotten worse. Wide receiver core's gotten worse. Tight end core's obviously gotten worse. Running back core gotten a little bit worse. And that goes back to what we talked about in the National Hour. There's just a spreading of this talent going out everywhere. You're not going to have I talked to somebody about this the other day. Every day that goes by, I think we get further and further confirmation of just how great those rosters were in 2021 and 2022. Man. Just how supremely dominant, the top to bottom, those 22 starters were on both sides of the football.
Hell, you just watched a third of them win a Super Bowl. Went dominate in the Super Bowl. So,
I mean, the defense has had a statistical decline.
They got rushed this year.
It finally happened. I saw some people questioning Glenn Schumann on the timeline. I immediately blocked them, but it is what it is. All right, I've got the latest on 2 really big prospects at the offensive tackle position. We've talked about a good bit. Jackson Cantwell and a gentleman I'm just going to refer to as Iheanacho, the offensive lineman out of Maryland. There are 2 clear-cut top tackles at the top of the 2026 board, and it is a stern drop-off right after that. Okay? That's my opinion of it. That's George's opinion of it. And from every other school that I've talked to on the offensive line front, that's everyone else's opinion of it. And I really thought, Iheanacho's out of Maryland, Jackson Cantwell's out of Missouri. I thought of the 2, Iheanacho was going to fetch a real hefty price, and I thought Cantwell might be one of these guys that, I don't know, just might not be as expensive. And then reports surfaced yesterday that out of the blue, Jackson Cantwell is going to be taking unofficial visits to Michigan, Ohio State, and Miami. You know what that just told me?
Money.
That sucker just got expensive. All right. Just got really expensive on that forefront, too. And Missouri's involved as an in-state prospect, so you know it's going to get expensive. The good news, I have talked to some sources about this today. I think Georgia is going to have a seat at the table for probably both of them towards the end of this class. I don't know what the intel is on these guys now. Georgia is a finisher for most of these blue chip prospects that they're in battles for towards the end of these recruitment processes. And I've been made aware that they will probably get some type of seat at the table at the end of this for both of these prospects. And if you sign both of those guys, you're going to have to patchwork the rest of the class. You're going to have to go out and find some guys that are recruited and underdeveloped and make projections based off that. value bin shopping essentially if you land both of these two guys, but I think it would be worth leveraging your recruiting class for that because these two guys are so good. And I feel this way about several positions in this class, and it's where this next, topic is transitioning into.
Before you get into that, what's the percentage you would put that both of these guys go to the same school? It doesn't matter if it's Georgia, it doesn't matter, just anywhere.
I don't know. That's a hard question.
Okay.
I think nowadays it's all about whether or not you can allocate the salary for the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have the ability to do so, and you're going to have to make a decision, like I'm saying, if you're going all in on these two guys, you're not going to sign blue chippers elsewhere. Mm-hmm. There's not signing Ahinacho and Cantwell and then bringing in 3 interior offensive linemen that are ranked 4 stars in the top 500. That's just not going to happen. If you sign these two guys, the rest of it's value bin shopping, and I would be okay doing that. I would, especially with the way they're, pretty stacked up on the roster right now on the offensive line bodies, just number of bodies that they have. I don't think you need to take 5 playable football players this year. I think you need to take 2 guys that are going to be great and then hope that some other guys get developed into that. And I feel this way about the class in 2026 as a whole. And here's what I'm going to lay out. Right? Jared Curtis is going to be expensive for whoever lands him. Right now, Oregon is in the lead. But Jared Curtis, QB1, very big fall off, rest of quarterback board. That's at every program in the country not named Tennessee. Tennessee loves Faison Brandon, and they're going to sign him, and they're going to do everything they can to hold on to him. Everybody else that is in the big boy recruitment circles is going after Jared Curtis hard. Okay? I would be willing. Give him what it probably takes. Leverage whatever you need to do to probably land him because, like I said, stern drop-off. I feel the same way about Caden Prothero and Mark Bowman at the tight end position. I think you have to do everything you can to land those two guys. If it means you're short a third body in the defensive tackle room, tough. That's where we are at right now in this class. I already talked about the offensive tackles. I feel the same way about Tyler Atkinson at linebacker. There is such a fall off from what Tyler Atkinson is and what else you could possibly land at the inside linebacker position that whatever it costs, you might just have to pay him because of the drop off and the opportunity cost that you're losing where, the next guy ranks.
It feels like there's a lot of this in this class of if you don't get the top guy, then scrap together what you can because it's that top heavy, and it seems like it's that way at a lot of positions.
So at this point, you got to wonder, does the class size get impacted because the top end recruits cost more? See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Might not be able to sign 6, 7, 8, 9 guys at the bottom of the roster or the bottom of the class that fill out positions just to be bodies like they've taken in years prior. Well, they might have to be in-state guys that just love Georgia.
Just make the prediction now. 2026 winter transfer portal window going to be absolutely insane. Wild West.
So says everybody. Yeah. So I would go all in. Now, here's the good news. There is rumblings and positive talk in the world of college football that the House versus NCAA settlement is on the doorsteps of being finalized. Okay. And the optimism is that this will impact not the 2027 class, but the 2026 class, that these rules are going to get implemented very, very soon. Now, what are these rules? What is the new world order of college football going to look like on the recruiting front? Because the last 3 years, since 2021, we have been in the definition of the Wild Wild West. I don't even think that analogy even serves purpose because, like I've mentioned in years prior, if you were out in the Wild Wild West back in the day when they was riding on horses and shit and you killed somebody, they family going to come after you. All right. They're going to find you. They're going to put your name on poster boards. They're going to make you the most wanted. Bounty hunters going to come get you. There ain't been none of that in college football the last 3 years. In fact, the bounty hunter's been the NCAA, and every time they try to get somebody for cheating and paying for players and doing what they're not supposed to technically be doing, even though there aren't any rules, can't do shit about it. NCAA gets thrown right up out of court. They lose. It doesn't matter. Okay. So now I do believe we're actually going to get some type of rules and regulations on that. So let's give you the rundown. This is what it's going to look like, okay? Revenue sharing model is coming, most likely in 2026. Might be implemented this summer. There's hopes. I'm probably projecting this into 2026. But let's say it's 2025. $20.5 million annual revenue sharing amongst athletes. So of the total budgets and total income that is getting, implemented and insourced into these athletic funds. $20.5 million annually will have to be allocated to the athletes. Now, at each individual school, you will be able to decide how you go about allotting that $20.5 million. Everything that I've heard at the University of Georgia, they're rumbling around anywhere from $14 to $15 million that will be allocated to the football roster, leaving about $5 for the rest of the sports at the University of Georgia. They have also, as we told you yesterday, promoted Stephen Drummond into a new role that I'm basically calling the Super PAC fund guy. All right, he's out running out all the money outside of the revenue sharing model that they're ultimately going to pour back into the collective and then add on top of that $14 to $15 million to the football program. Now, with the rev sharing model being agreed to, there is now going to be regulation on the forefront of NIL. Okay, now how is that going to happen, right? Currently, there is no regulation on NIL because you've been violating antitrust lawsuits forever, and you didn't allow any type of rev share. So the government, who regulates all of this across the 50 states, has basically thrown their hands up and said, you violate our antitrust lawsuits, which we implemented, I think, in the 30s. We've had antitrust lawsuits for a long time. You've been violating them forever. So no, we are not going to help you on the regulatory aspect of this stuff. You're going to have to figure it out on your own. And the NCAA hasn't been able to do it, right? They have no power. We talked about that. Currently, there is no regulation. Now that there is acceptance of this rev share model, now the government is actually going to regulate this across the board. And here's my understanding and what people have told me about this. Any non-revenue sharing income north of $600 will have to be reported to some type of clearinghouse. Okay, now why the $600? Does anybody know?
It's tax.
If you get paid $600 or more in one calendar year by any entity, you have to file a tax form. Okay. That is now going to have to be filed with the government, therefore regulating what is actually happening on this. So you're not going to be able to have Johnny the Booster paying $20,000 into the bank account of Johnny the Player, which is currently what you got going on. Essentially, you've got boosters piling up money together and then going out and giving it to their players. I don't believe that is going to be a part of this new model. So what does that mean?
Before you go too deep into that,
Oh, we're already way too deep.
What's stopping that from happening under the table, though?
Oh, that's the final point here.
Okay.
You're never going to be able to regulate cash ever. There's no tracking the cash. That's why, lawn services ain't never paid taxes a day in their life.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say, it feels a lot like we're reverting back to a system 30 years ago where you couldn't pay players at all and it was just all done under the table. Now it's the payment you give players is regulated, but you can still do the under the table things. Yeah.
But used to, all the under the table payments were all the players were getting because they weren't getting any portion of the revenue share,
and they're not legally binding either.
Yeah. Now you will have a contract. You will have stipulations in those contracts, including length of term. So when you sign this revenue sharing model as a player, that will have some type of, set windows on when you can and can't get out of your contract. Now, don't ask me anything about collectively bargaining, any of this stuff. Don't ask me about a players union. Don't ask me about none of that because I have no idea how they're going to handle all of that stuff. But I do believe, like you mentioned, we're going to get back to a very level playing field on the recruiting front. Okay, this idea that just because you have the biggest bankroll now means you get the best players year in, year out because you can pay them the most. I don't think that is going to be the nature of college football moving forward. I do think we're going to have some type of sanity come to this. Now, do I trust with 100% certainty that whatever regulations come are going to be the right ones? No. But here's how I explained it to a source today. Even if the speed limit you put on the road ain't the right one, at least you put a damn speed limit up. Because right now we ain't got one. We have nothing garnering any of these rules out here in college football. At least now we have something coming to us. So it's good news.
Yeah, I think this is overall good news. I think it's just paying players under the table and is going to be something that you're never going to stop in college football.
The cash, you're not. But they rat on each other for the cash a whole hell of a lot easier than they do right now.
Absolutely.
It's why Ole Miss got caught. It's why Tennessee got caught. It's why SMU got caught. All right? Because these guys don't allow the cash to get crazy. So I think that's good news. I think the last 3 years on this network, I felt like our audience has just been petrified about all the player mobility and all the stuff with NIL and all the transfer portal stuff. And I do think there's positive things coming down the track with all of those. And that's good news.
I agree.
All right. What is the season-defining game for the University of Georgia this year? And I dare you to tell me anything other than Texas.
Well, I guess I'm out.
ESPN would love to have a word with you.
They're wrong.
ESPN said that Georgia's game against Alabama on September 27th will be the season-defining game for Georgia. I am in agreement with you. I don't understand. I get it. I get that Georgia has a problem beating Alabama, and you're getting Alabama in your home stadium early in the season, and if you win that game, it could do wonderful things for you, and if you lose that game, we saw what can happen. I mean, it's been kind of the thorn in your side for the last 15 years, it feels like. I get that, and I get that you can make that argument it's season-defining. It's also it's a great story of, can Georgia do it this year? It's not the season-defining game. It's Texas.
It's Texas.
You play Texas is the last SEC game of your schedule. It's going to be a top 5 matchup, most likely, or a top 10 matchup at the very worst. And if it isn't, it's a top 15 matchup. It's going to be Arch Manning, a guy that you really, really want to get in your building, coming into your building and trying to beat you. It's a team that you beat twice last year, once in the SEC Championship, one in their stadium. They're going to on a revenge tour.
I got a sidebar here. Get the clips ready. Keep the tabs on it. We're going off the deep end here. Am I crazy for thinking this schedule isn't that hard? Am I insane for thinking the 2025 University of Georgia football schedule is not that hard?
Not nearly as hard as last year's.
It's not nearly as hard as last year.
I'm gonna run through it. You get Bama early. You get Bama really early. Their first road SEC football game. Their first road game is against Florida State. I don't expect Doak Walker to be absolutely insane in early September. So the first real road test for Alabama this year in the SEC is the University of Georgia. I'm not worried about in Tennessee until Tennessee beats the University of Georgia and figures out a way to successfully continue to create offense against this Georgia defense. They haven't been able to do it since Heupel's been there, and I'm not betting against it. I'm not betting against Georgia against Tennessee until it happens. Ole Miss is rebuilding, and you get them at home. Jordan Hare scares me a whole hell of a lot more than Jackson Arnold ever will. Florida will have something for you, I believe, in that rivalry game. Mm-hmm. Tech got slightly worse. It's tough, but it ain't like a gauntlet.
I don't think advertising Georgia's 2025 schedule as like it's right up there with 2024. It's difficult. But you look at it and you go back to like the 2021 schedule and the 2022 schedules and things like that, and it's like I
mean, they have 3 true road games.
Mm-hmm. That is where I think you make the argument of it's not that tough. Like there's 3 true road games in one of the road environments. It's Mississippi State. Like that's a game you should never lose.
No.
Well, and like 3 of your toughest opponents last year took steps back, and Ole Miss took a step back this season.
The whole conference has.
Tennessee's taking a step back, it appears. And then also Alabama looks like they're going to take a bit of a step back as well. So those 3 not being what they were or what they were expected to be last year coming into 2025 kind of alleviates some of the stress. On top of that, 2 of those games are now at home as opposed to last year they're on the road.
Now, I think what does make it a difficult schedule is the circumstances like we just talked about. Yeah, Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss are all taking steps back. Georgia's taking a step back.
Sure.
You're losing 3 interior starters on your offensive line. You're losing a quarterback that had almost 30 starts for you.
Losing 6 guys going to the NFL on defense, maybe 7.
Correct. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think that's also what makes it a difficult schedule is you're going to be rebuilding throughout all that. And it's kind of, you get 2 weeks and then it's, hey, here you go. You get, I think it's Marshall and Austin Peay, and then it's, hey, go to Tennessee, you get a week off. Then it's Bama, Kentucky, at Auburn, Ole Miss. Like, it doesn't stop once it starts. And I think that's what makes it difficult, and I think that's where you can kind of have problems. And like you said, everyone's kind of taken a step back, so it's going to be who took the least amount of steps back.
So, with that being said, what's the baseline for success? Because I'm setting it at 10-2.
I feel like that's the mark for a while. It feels like that's the benchmark for Georgia and the SEC now. Like if this is
everybody in the SEC,
yeah.
I think 10-2 if you beat Florida, Georgia Tech, and Alabama. You can lose the other 2 games, and I know that we just talked about how beating Alabama is going to be a season-defining game, and I don't think it is. But from the fan base's perspective, if you don't beat Alabama this year in Stanford Stadium, in a year where there's no Jalen Milroe, there's no boogeyman, Kalen DeBoer, obviously we just saw that Alabama wasn't as good as we thought they were early in the season. Things are going to get kind of tense if you don't do that. So I think that would mark a successful season. I think you also need to win 2 playoff games in there.
Yeah.
I think if you don't make at least a respectable playoff run this year, people are going to be kind of like, what the hell's going on? Like, making the playoff last year clearly showed you that just making the playoff was not good enough. The fact that Georgia got to the Sugar Bowl last year, was a playoff team, despite everything that went down. They won the freaking SEC championship, and a lot of people still deem the season as a disappointment or a failure. So it's very clear that you have to make some form of playoff run. You don't have to win. Obviously, saying it's natty or bust is kind of an irresponsible thing to do, but I would say that you have to at least make a formidable playoff run for it to be a respectable season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the most important thing is that while you are taking a step back, the expectation is still to win the SEC and to be in the college football playoff and to be a title contender. Because I mean, we just kind of mentioned multiple teams of Ole Miss is taking a step back. Those expectations aren't there. Tennessee's taking a step back. They're not really expecting that this year, it seems like. Alabama's kind of figuring out what the heck an expectation under Kalen DeBoer is. Really, Georgia and Texas are the only 2 that are still holding these expectations that they did a season ago, despite losing a good amount of production on both sides of the football.
Parity. A balance of power across college football. Let's take a look at this big board update. My God, they're reading that, son. They are reading that.
I think it's because ESPN's not doing anything for it.
Yeah, no. College baseball is not getting covered by anybody other than the beat reporters right now. Unfortunate. It's a good product. Let's take it to the board. We got a big board update. Let's take a look at the safety prospects in the 2026 recruiting class. All right, who we got up first? We got Blaine Bradford, Jaden Terry, the cousin of one Justice Terry, Brian Womack, Nasir McCoy. We're going to look at Tyreek Green today as well. 2 Buford safeties today. And Zach Fort is already committed to the University of Georgia. We won't watch him today because we've already taken a look at that film. Now, the guy I want to start with is this guy right here, Braylon Womack. Braylon Womack is just recently ranked the number 2 consensus safety in the 2026 class by the rest of the folks. Okay, so the rest of the folks think this guy is absolutely stellar. So let's take a look at this film and see what we got going on. We got an offensive clip to start. This is an athlete that they're transitioning into or projecting into a safety. Okay, so we got ball skills off rip. We know we got that. That's good news. Okay. Always looking for safeties that can track and find it. So we're going to see basically his athletic profile here. This was the thing when you evaluated like a KJ Bolden the first 3 years of high school.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we watched a lot of offensive tape where it's like, wow, he is an incredible athlete. Oh, I thought we were going to turn that sideline right there. That would have been nuts. This is why evaluating the defensive back position, in my opinion, is the hardest of any like high school projections into college. Body caught, but the ball's behind him. So
severely underthrown.
Yeah, very underthrown. You almost don't want to catch that ball high pointed unless you have people around you so you can continue to run after the catch. Looks pretty, I'm not going to say thin. He just doesn't look huge. About 6 foot, 185 is what the film looks like.
Projection, correct?
Correct. I'm going to have to see you stick. This is so hard.
Top end does not look to be.
No sudden.
Yeah. Here we go.
All right, we got some safety tape here. Are we coming downhill? I want to see a safety that can catch the football, be a playmaker in the back end like this right here. But I also got to know you can run the alley. Okay? So we'll see if that pops up on the tape here in a second. More defensive clip. This whole backfield looks really big and athletic. All these guys look really good.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get him off coverage. Probably see him make a pick at the end of this, I would imagine. Ooh, he got up there. It's so hard to do this, man. It's why their defensive back evals are almost based solely off of person camps.
That's a snag.
That's a hell of a snag. You're going to see him run here as a kickoff returner.
He's got good contact balance. I mean, that doesn't really help you as a safety.
Yeah.
Top end is not there, I don't think, though.
I mean, this dude's like top 32 right now. Like top 45.
Maybe he's just not running hard, or I don't know.
I don't know. All right. Let's move. Blaine Bradford. Let's take a look at this. Let's see what we got here. Do we have anything? I see a big body. I see a really big body. Whoop hang! Oh yeah, we found one, boys. We found one. Let's start it over. Can we get some juice in the room? Can we get some juice in the room for this right here?
For one play, come on.
I mean, stick.
It's a great stick. He's also flat-footed and late to the read.
Oh, boo! We're on our toes here. Come on, downhill. Come on. Run the alley. Whoop bang! Yes, sir.
That's a little better. Now,
yes, sir. All right, Mr. Bradford, we're on you. That's a big kid. Oh, we're going to turn and run? We're going to find the ball? Oh, yes, sir. Can we get a height and weight on Mr. Bradford here?
first name?
Blaine. Are we making a lot of Blaines nowadays? That's Blaine.
247, it's 6'1", 200 pounds.
This dude looks 205, 210 right here in high school tape. That's a big kid. I like this.
He takes good angles.
I like this a lot.
He takes very good angles.
Woo!
He's a thumper. I like it. I'm in.
Yeah, I'm sold. All right, we're gonna see a deep pedal here. No, yeah, we kind of are. We're gonna run with the middleman. Turn and find this football.
That's a catch in college.
Yeah, we got to undercut that football somehow. Yeah,
he fills out very well.
Yeah,
though.
dude, we're a guaranteed strong safety. Guaranteed. Downhill, I want this dude hunting. I want this dude running the alley. We're gonna see him shed a block right here. Come on now. Yes, sir.
Thumper.
Yes, sir. I am on the Bradford tape. The only thing missing here is no, it's not. Dude, that's good.
Clean.
That's a really good turning pedal.
That's clean.
That is a really good turning pedal. All right, yeah. Mr. Blaine Bradford, number one on our board, right now.
For now, definitely.
Out of what we've seen so far, this dude is a guy. Oh, I love how we track the near hip right there. We were hunting a kill shot, but we tracked the near hip, being disciplined right there. That's good football. All right, let's go look at Jaden Terry. Again, this is the cousin of one Justice Terry. Okay? Oh, yeah, we're going to see an athlete right here.
Is it a punt or an interception?
No, it's an interception. I thought we were going to crib it. All right, this is against Warner Robbins right here. So this is this is him against Prothrow. That's Caden Prothrow right there. All right, so let's take a look back at the start of this. This is him against the number one tight end in the state of Georgia right here. Number two tight end in the class of 2026. So let's see how we handle this big body right here. We're going to be in the hip, and we're going to break it up and undercut it. I like that clip. It's like a little swag after two.
Looks like they put him star coverage there. Just you follow him wherever he goes.
It looks like that's kind of what they got going on most of the time right here.
Yeah, they just man him up on the I mean, this is corner play pretty much.
Yeah, take their best player out of the equation today, Jaden. Oh, yeah. Now, I don't think this guy's huge.
No.
But, they're not all huge to be great anymore. KJ Bolden's not huge. We're going to turn and get on the hip of that one.
That's a very good baseball turn.
Yeah, it is. Just a good athlete with the ball in there.
Doesn't panic at all. I mean, he's playing corner in here. This as a safety, you're going to be golden.
Long strider, too. Is this a J.R. Reedy kind of guy?
Ooh. I like that. Yeah.
So calm, isn't he?
Doesn't flash athletically, but he's never going to be in the wrong position.
Both literally in the same spot, and his body's never going to be compromised.
Correct.
He's never going to overstride. He's never going to be in a bad spot. He's just a good overall athlete that might not have the A++ traits, but just an A all across the board. All right, it's him against Bowden again. Looks like he's in zone coverage, so we're going to click down here. Yep. Just a decent unzip there. All right. Let's move on. I like Jaden Terry a good bit. Now, let's take a look at these Buford safeties. Okay, this is Nasir McCoy. All right, now he's the one that's been at Buford for a long time. The one we're going to watch after this, Mr. Tyree Green, transferred over from Kell. Oh, we're going to get a stick. Doink.
Great hawk roll.
Yeah, I will say this about Nasir. Really, really fast football player, okay? And has been on the radar for a long time. He's been a really good ball player at Buford since his freshman year as a stick on the sideline.
Buford needs some different jerseys, man.
Well, they got about 17 different uni combos. Oh, man. Who is that? That's East Coweta. If East Coweta had a damn quarterback any time over the last 3 years, they might have won a state title. They had one guy go to Princeton, I think, a couple years ago. That was all right. But, man, they got line of scrimmage players galore at East Coweta. We're going to get a pick here? Uh-huh. Okay. Are we going to crib this? Nope.
Nah. Damn, Mike just fell on his ass. Run him down, though, at least. Poor Mike slipped. Did you see that? Run it back, you'll see.
The middle linebacker?
Yeah.
I think their middle linebacker's committed to Michigan. That's Montrez Walker. Oh, no, 34. That's not him.
Overran it and then slipped. I think Bradford's definitely our number one.
Yeah, it's a clear-cut one right now. And the other guys aren't really, I'm not going to say aren't close, but nothing popping like what Gabbard did in those couple clips. Or Bradford, excuse me. All right, this is Tyree Green right here. Again, started his career at Kell High School, was a freshman offer kid from the University of Georgia. And he's a good football player. That's a much thicker prospect than what we just watched from Nasir McCoy. This kid played, I think he started his career as a running back. This is a clip of him playing running back right here, actually. Yeah. So about 6'1", Kirby, about 205 pounds, much bigger football player than Nasir McCoy. Okay. Nasir McCoy, in my opinion, when he came onto the scene, everybody thought he might be the next KJ Bolden. And we kind of settled into a really, really, really good high school football player, but not KJ Bolden. Does that make sense?
Which
I mean, come on.
Being KJ Bolden's tough.
That sounds like I just crapped on the kid.
Yeah.
But it's okay to be a top 200 player. We're not all top 25 players.
You're a really, really good quarterback, but you're not Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. You're really, really good, but you're not Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
So I think we're okay. Apart from the Blaine kid, I haven't seen anybody stick yet. All right, there we go.
We
found one.
That was Timmy on an off-balance spin. I want to see you fill an alley and stick. Like this.
I want to. No. This ain't no Timmy, dude. Is that
he's off balance.
That's Lee County, and that's Wesley Bryan.
Okay.
That quarterback's 6'4", 230 pounds,
all right,
and just won state title in heavyweight wrestling.
He's still off balance though.
I know, but he's big.
Hey,
he's a big dude.
I'm not diminishing it, but I am.
I'm not diminishing it, but I am.
Here we go. This is jail screen. This is where
jail screen. We're going to see somebody.
Double pass.
Oh, double pass. Good angle right there. Way to keep your feet in. He tried to make a play afterwards. This is him against Roswell right here. What I do love about Buford, all right, they are clearly running split safety coverage right here. All right, this safety over here is controlling whatever coverage they're running over here. This safety over here is controlling whatever coverage they run over here. Why is that important? That's what Georgia does. Okay, so when you leave a program like Buford, and you heard Kirby talk about it with KJ this year, when you come from a program like this that runs high-level defensive concepts, we don't have to worry about your football intellect when you get here. Your processor is already at a little bit higher of a level doing what we do, okay? I love how he's flat-footed there. I don't love it in college because we probably just got ran by, but we're calm. We're calm right here, and we know we're confident enough to run this down. He's
flat-footed because he knows he can be.
Yeah, he's exactly. He's flat-footed because he knows he can be. I do think a better ball probably gets us beat there if we're not careful.
You can't do that in college.
No.
You'll quickly find that out anyways.
Even though number 4 did a whole hell of a lot of it this year.
Yeah.
But number 4 is special. We just talked about that. Is this him on the near side? Yeah.
Turn the hips.
Get your head around, though. I like that. He got his head around early, Kirby. Recognize that right now, not right now, hold on. Right now, his head's already around. He knows he's getting attacked, and now we have an opportunity to play this ball. A great ball in college probably gets us cooked right there. I love that we're confident enough to play the ball in the air.
Yeah.
Not panic.
I think that's something you got to look for. He's not panicked.
Yes.
But there it is. That's better.
That's the hunting. I want to see like a good minute and a half of that on a 7-minute clip. Oof.
I would say this is safety 2 right now, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Based off what we've seen today.
It's so hard to tell what happens.
I want to go back and rewatch that Blaine Bradford tape. That shit was crazy. We still got 6 minutes left of this stuff. This is the guy. Will you see where my man's? Does he have official visits? I know he's going to Texas A&M for an OV. I don't know where else he's headed. I think he's from Mississippi. So
he is from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Oh, he's from LA. He's from Louisiana. Woo.
Let's see.
Are we going to get a kickoff clip right here? He's going to murder someone right here. He's going to absolutely kill someone. Yep.
Poor guy.
Dude loves ball. I'll tell you that much. This guy loves ball. Now, I do worry. If you told me this guy was 230 pounds by the time he's a sophomore in college, I wouldn't be shocked. Okay, that's a big, thick kid from the lowers right there.
Keeping the weight off is going to be important. I don't see any OVs, but the offers are just now rolling in.
Really? This is a dude.
Yeah,
we're going to jump that route.
He got offered from Auburn in January, Florida in January. Bam offered him in June. Okay, so I mean. All
right. Now, you want me to break your heart right quick?
Sure.
I think the best defensive back in the country is committing to Alabama tomorrow. Jordan Edmonds, the kid from Sprayberry.
It's tough.
Holy hell. My God, that kid's good. Yes, he is. Yes, he was. And there's some conflicting reports from the building. Okay, there's some guys that are like, man, I hope we didn't mess up on this one. Now, it's not over. It's February, but tomorrow, I think he's set for a commitment date tomorrow, and almost 100% chance he's going to Alabama, and he is a guy. 6'3", 200 pounds, and I don't know how you feel about big corners. I am so out on them because my prototypical corner is 6 foot, 185 pounds, is the best athlete on the field. Any taller, we get into that 6'2", 6'3" range, we're normally really stiff, we're slow out of our turns, we're not quick directional athletes. Not Jordan Edmonds. Jordan Edmonds is all of that and more at 6'3", 200 pounds. So we'll see how that goes, but I think it's going to be Alabama tomorrow.
It's tough.
That is tough. But, win some, lose some. I don't think they got in on that one early enough.
Is corner a position, like you said, this year where it's if you don't get one of the top guys, you're going to have to kind of scramble to put together others, or is that just strictly in the offensive position?
And I'm not copping out here, Kirby. Apart from the guys that I've seen in person, I leave all defensive back evaluation up to them.
No, I mean that's fair because it's
we see this. Unless there's we're not gonna do a cornerback big board on this show. Why am I watching corner highlights? So I can watch you get circled before the snap, disappear out of the camera angle, and then reappear with an interception. When the reality of the important stuff happened, all of that things that I didn't see, right? In between the snap and when you actually got yourself into the position to make the play, that stuff matters, and I can't see that on high school highlight tapes from corners. So I rely solely on their evaluation point there.
That's valid. I mean, it is hard to tell. And we just talked about this. Like, it's even hard to tell in safety footage where it's like, was that a tip pass? Did he intercept it? I can't see. So,
and you have just so much. Of all of the positions that they're great at evaluating, I think they're most solid in defensive backs because every guy on that defensive staff, apart from Trey Scott, has a DB background.
Yeah.
Glenn Schumann's first GA job was as a defensive backs GA. Kirby Smart, obviously a background in DBs. Muschamp. You just promoted Thacker to a Nichols coaching job as well. DB background. Obviously Dante Williams. Obviously T-Rob as well. You got a plethora of really, really smart lifers in the defensive backfield on that staff.
So then, how do sources feel about the class of defensive backs? The ones that actually hold these camps and the ones that, because I'm sure you've talked to them about it.
Yeah, they're just now at Georgia getting all of the video and data from the UA Atlanta camp that happened a couple weeks ago that we talked about on this network. They are siphoning through that a lot right now, kind of reestablishing what the board looks like.
Okay.
So that's a question for another week.
That's fine.
But the overarching sentiment I've gotten from sources at Georgia is that they agree with me that the in-state crop in 2026 is not very good, and the crop as a whole is not very good. We've talked about, hey, who's the best defensive tackle in the class of 2026? You know what the answer I got back today was? Seven Cloud by a mile. I mean, he's a great football player. He is, but he's going to come to Georgia with 2 years of eligibility. Well, no. He played JUCO, so it didn't count.
Yeah, basically a true freshman.
Yeah, basically a true freshman. So that's awesome. And he's great. He's really, really good. So they're excited about that one, but he's got to play another year of JUCO before they can even get him on campus. Motherfucker going to be 23 when he shows up to campus with 4 years of eligibility.
Good for him, man.
What a time to be alive. Why even play college football your first 2 years? Why not just go take a JUCO and do some roids?
Beef up a little more.
Yeah. Just go siphon through some trend for 2 years and then come back to college football.
Do you think like certain players that were highly touted not getting immediate playing time has kind of hurt the recruiting momentum, or is that just...
No, I don't think anybody's feeling great about what's going on in 2026. Who's out here crushing right now?
I'm more asking like, has the fact Ellis Robinson was labeled as one of the better recruits that you've gotten in the 2025 class and didn't really take meaningful snaps, has that hurt your recruiting process?
I think it's hard to play as a true freshman at Georgia. It gets labeled every year, and they defy it every year with special players. I mean, Kirby used KJ as a rolling billboard basically this year for freshman play here if you're good enough.
Kirby said he was ahead of Malachi at SEC Media Days.
Yeah.
So like, it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Hill started as a true freshman. Malachi started as a true freshman. Chris Cole got playing time this year as a true freshman.
CJ Allen.
And this year, I think there are going to be even more players than the year prior. Nate Frazier played. I mean, there's a lot of them every single year that defy this anti-recruiting narrative of freshmen don't play at Georgia. Well, they do if they're good enough. Appreciate you guys for being here. It was a great show tonight. We'll be live tomorrow at noon here on the network, so make sure you're tuned in there, and definitely not doing any work tomorrow. Just come hang out with us here on the Film Guy Network. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out. I love